I had rented days before. In our hotel, there was no heat and no electricity. I assumed that the moisture on my face that woke me was made up of my own breath freezing in the air. I was in a room with different travelers, some of whom were my friends. The rest were strangers. The darkness surrounding me was absolute. I couldn't see the gigantic fire engine red jacket I was wearing, which was so bulky I couldn't even lie down flat in it. We were in a hotel along a mountain pass that led through Nepal and into China. It was colder than seasonally normal, and the small town was covered in snow and ice. During the day, we played Yahtzee to pass the time while we waited for our Chinese visas to arrive. The cold front had frozen the roads, making it hard to drive. On the way to Tatopani, our van had slid off the road a few times. We had to get out and push the van, which was ill-suited for the frigid weather, back onto the frozen path. It had seemed funny at times, but that may have just been the high altitude affecting our moods. I didn't realize when planning the trip that we'd be at some of the highest altitudes you can drive in, and for long periods of time. I remember eating lots of candy bars because you lose your appetite when you're in those altitudes, and I'm a bad eater at the best of times. So I was devouring all these Mars and Snickers bars I had brought along, in addition to a diet of mostly noodles, and frankly, I thought I was going a bit mental. The winding roads had become thinner as we went deeper into the unforgiving Himalayan mountain range, and our youthful humor gave way to a more intense concern that we might not make it. By make it, I don't mean staying alive. I mean making it into Tibet and completing a major personal goal of mine, to have visited 100 countries before my 30th birthday. But what should have been a time of celebration was overshadowed by worry because of the critical situation that awaited me when I returned home. Over the last year, the Canadian dollar had fallen to all-time lows against the greenback, and the British pound was gaining strength with every passing day. For companies like ours that pay in foreign currency for services such as hotel stays and equipment rentals, a weak Canadian dollar meant that our costs were skyrocketing on a daily basis. We didn't have systems in place to react quickly enough, and in a frighteningly short period of time, our liabilities would surpass our assets. Technically, we were bankrupt. Unless we found a way to get back on our feet, we'd lose our tour operator license after the next reporting period. I knew when I went home, I'd have to deal with it. Sitting in my room at night, with the Tibetan border within reach, I should have enjoyed the feeling of being on the verge of achieving my wildest dreams. Instead, I was playing out different scenarios in my head of what might happen when the trip was over. I was tired. It had been quite a fight to keep the company afloat during the past year. After all our success and growth in previous years, everything had screeched to a halt. I lay back, realizing I needed to get up and head to the roof to take a pee. Before we went to bed, the owner of the hotel had informed us that the doors to the outhouse were frozen. If we need to go during the night, she had suggested, we should make our way to the roof to do our business and aim over the side of the building. I don't remember thinking this was unusual. A minute later, I stood on the roof of our hotel doing my thing while looking out across the Tibetan plateau. Even though it was dark, the stars stretched out in front of me. I had never seen so many of them in my life. It was impossibly quiet, terrifically cold, and breathtakingly beautiful. I was completely alone. I will never forget that night. Under the frozen blanket of stars, my life flashed before my eyes, and my mind whirled with thoughts of what felt like the end of my dream. I was exploring and doing what I loved, but I couldn't explode with happiness. My eyes welled up and my head rang with the words of everyone who said the company would never work, that I couldn't do it. I had to acknowledge that maybe they were right. Maybe I really couldn't do it. I was coming to grips with the possibility that this was the end. I managed to return my focus to the excitement of entering Tibet the next day. The sensation was overwhelming. I had felt a strong connection with the people of Tibet since I was 10. That was when I asked my